Good morning and welcome to FPL Mate, your best mate for World Cup fantasy content. My name is Dan and we are streaming a little bit earlier today just because unfortunately I'm not going to be available nearer to the deadline because it is my brother's birthday. So we are going to be going out and having some fun today, basically. We've got a few things planned this afternoon. So yeah, sorry guys, no deadline stream. This is going to be our replacement deadline stream, I guess. And a big shout out to happy birthday, my brother. So there we go guys. Hopefully this is going to be a useful stream. We're going to talk about all kinds of stuff. We're going to talk about, you know, how I'm looking at lining up my team. Of course, nothing is set until the deadline, but I'll show you roughly what I'm thinking about right now. And we're going to talk about some team news, some strategy as well. And we're going to do some Q&A stuff as well, answering some of your questions. So hopefully we'll be here for the next half an hour or so, maybe 40 minutes. And hopefully we can just cover as much as we can in the time that we do have. So first of all, guys, you can see in front of you, this is my scores from Matchday 3. A score of 58 puts my rank up to 6,308th in the world, which I'm pretty happy with. I did aim to go into Matchday 4 within, well, inside the top 10,000 players. We've managed to do that somehow, so really happy with that. Did have to take a -3 hit, unfortunately, during Matchday 3 because Mbappe wasn't starting. I decided to transfer him out for Morata. He got 6 points, so I think that is a small dub, I suppose. Aside from that, I didn't really change anything. So, yeah, looking pretty good. I think overall, yeah, there was a couple of other changes, wasn't there? You know, no, Trippier wasn't playing, so I had to transfer him out for, I can't remember who I went for. Raum, was it? Maybe. I brought in Albert as well for Hernandez, which failed. But look, you can't get everything right. We knew in Matchday 3 it was going to be difficult and we were going to make some, I don't want to call them mistakes. It was more that there was just going to be loads of random rotation. It was always going to be a little bit difficult to field a full 11 in Matchday 3, but we survived. So let's move on to the next match day. I'll show you what I am lining up with so far. This is what I'm kind of running with this morning. It's not quite perfect. It's not quite exactly what I want. What I really do want is to get Alisson in as my second goalkeeper, but I've got to kind of find some more money in order to do that. So maybe we'll try and do that during this stream, maybe not. But certainly this is what I'm looking at the moment. So Noppert, first of all, very obvious to me. USA should be a clean sheet, you would hope. The one thing that concerns me a little bit about going for too many Netherlands players is their route to the final. So to try and keep things as simple as possible, I've got the fixtures up here. Basically, whoever wins out of Netherlands versus USA will go on to play whoever wins out of Argentina and Australia, whoever wins out of, you know, you could probably see on screen, but this fixture here, whoever wins plays against this fixture. This fixture here, whoever wins plays against this fixture. His fixture here plays against this fixture. This one against this one. So you can kind of get an idea of how the tournament is kind of split down the middle of two paths to the final, if you like. And Netherlands, you would probably say, have the more difficult path to the final. You know, even if they beat USA, they're going to have to play either Argentina or Australia next. Probably going to be Argentina, if we're totally honest. And yeah, etc., etc. So I really on this, because this I think is a big part of strategy, because remember, this is our last, unless you've still got your wild card somehow, this is going to be your last opportunity to make a complete new team, right? So we do need to think about the future a little bit. We need to think about going into the following match day. Nicola, thank you very much for the super chat. Good morning, Dan. Have a nice day. Thank you very much, my friend. And hopefully you have a good day as well. But yes, going back to this, definitely Brazil, you would say, have a good route to the final. And I kind of touched on this in my last video I put up last night. So Brazil play South Korea. And then if they win that game, they will play the winner of Japan versus Croatia. Croatia are the favourite in that game, but only just. So you would look at that and say, that's pretty nice. They avoid France all the way to the final. They avoid Argentina all the way to the final. They avoid England and Netherlands. They can't play any of those teams until the final. You know, it's going to be, even in the semi-finals, it's going to be Spain and Portugal, which you would say are not amazing fixtures necessarily. There is no such thing as good fixtures at this stage of the tournament. Particularly from next round, there's no such thing as good fixtures. And from the semi-finals, every fixture is a bad fixture. But certainly, on paper, it looks pretty good for Brazil. So I would be trying to load up on Brazil players. Maybe even try and go for 4 Brazil players, to be honest. So just one to think about. And yeah, another reason why Netherlands players, good fixture against USA, but going further forward, they'll have to play Argentina next. Again, with England, if you're going for England players and you think they're going to beat Senegal, fair enough. But remember, if they get through, they're likely to play France next. So this is something we do need to just have a little bit of consideration for. And that's probably the biggest part of strategy that you should probably be thinking about right now. Now, another thing to note, guys, before we continue through looking at my wildcard team, on strategy again, is this. So you can see in front of you guys, during the round of 16, you get 4 transfers to use. Before we get unlimited, but during we get 4 transfers. So after the first game kicks off, which is Netherlands, right? After that game kicks off, we are going to see a situation where we get 4 transfers to use, and you use them or lose them. You can't carry them forward to the following round. So it's going to be very important that we do use them, if anything, to set up for the quarterfinals. If you kind of want to go that way, you can like the same way as we did the wildcard hack. You can use these transfers to start setting up for the quarterfinals. You are going to get 5 transfers then anyway, but it does allow you to take a couple of risks. So, for example, in my team, I've got Sandro in. I'm hoping Sandro is going to be available. I know he's back in training. He still has got a minor hip injury. But because I've got those 4 transfers, Sandro is a player who I can quite easily move to Telles if I need to. And I've gone for Sandro rather than Telles because Sandro is the more expensive of the 2 players. And I feel like, just making sure I've got the most expensive one, because it's much easier to downgrade than it is to upgrade because of budget, I guess. Also, guys, budget. 105 million now. That wasn't stated anywhere in the rules, but apparently we've got an extra 5 million to play with, which is pretty nice, which allows us to make a slightly different kind of route there. Oh, people saying that I've got the routes wrong of the in the semis. Oh, does it swap around in the semis? So definitely in the quarterfinals, it would be Netherlands versus Argentina and France versus England, right? That's definitely the quarterfinals route. I'm like 100% on that. But you're saying further forward, it swaps around, so it'd be Argentina versus Brazil, and winner of Portugal and Spain versus winner of England and France. Actually, that does sound right, to be fair. Okay, so it switches around in the semi-finals. But certainly we can still think about the quarterfinals, which would be Netherlands versus Argentina, France versus England, Brazil versus one of Japan or Croatia, and Portugal versus Spain. Okay, so we know that. So Brazil would meet Argentina. Assuming all the favourites go through, it would then be Argentina versus Brazil in the semis, and one of England and France versus one of Spain and Portugal, which is disastrous. Okay, but there we go. That's the way that's going to work then. I think, you know what, now you've mentioned it, I think that is correct. So, moving back to the team. It's difficult. It's difficult. So I've doubled up on the Brazil defense. They're still playing very well defensively. I know they conceded last game, but they were very much playing a second string team. Anyone saying Sandro is injured? We have spoken about this, but yeah, we have those 4 transfers to make changes if we need to. But Sandro is back in training. Similarly, I've left 0.5 budget in the bank. If Saka doesn't play, it probably means that Foden is going to play. So we've got the 0.5 million in the bank to upgrade Saka to Foden, which is pretty nice. Olmo is a player I quite like the look of, but I'm not 100% sure on him. So maybe he is the player I downgrade. I kind of want to get in Alisson somehow. So anyway, this is the scene. Noppert, because I want to have a goalkeeper against USA, and he's nice and cheap. USA... there will be people saying, I think USA are going to go through. Of course there is. At the end of the day, fantasy games are about a lot of it is just about odds. It's about favourites, it's about odds, it's about most likely outcomes. So therefore, although I'm sure there's a lot of people in the USA watching this right now, shout out to the Americans in the chat, No offense, guys, but I do have to play the favourites, and there is a favourite in every single one of these games, and every single one of my players in my team plays for the favourite to progress through to the next round. That said, I'm not going all in on Netherlands as I perhaps would have done before. We've got Klaassen in there as well from the Netherlands. We've got 3 Brazilian players, Marquinhos and Sandro. I've spoken about Sandro a little bit. Marquinhos is nailed on pretty much every single game he'll play for the rest of the tournament, and we think they'll go far as well. I would imagine that there's a good chance of Brazil getting 2 clean sheets in their next 2 games, so maybe not conceding until the semi-finals. I think that's very, very likely, or very, very possible. So that is a reason why I am quite keen to go for some Brazil defenders. I've already got 2. I'd like to get a 3rd. We've got Shaw in here. I think he's going to be pretty nailed on for the rest of the tournament. Senegal, I don't think are the best attack in the competition. You know, I think they're a decent team. Every team, as I keep saying, every team at this stage is a decent team, but they are certainly one of the weaker attacks remaining in the tournament, particularly without Sadio Mane. Saka is in here as well. I think Saka is going to start this next game. There's a chance he doesn't. If he doesn't, we will make that switch to Foden. That's why we left the money in the bank. We've got some France players. Theo Hernandez, he is available. He is going to be absolutely fine. He's rested from match day 3, and he's going to be straight back in against Poland with his creativity. Potential for a clean sheet. I'm not writing off Poland. I think actually Poland could potentially score in that game, which is why I've only gone for 1 France defender. But I do like Hernandez's attacking ability. Mbappe, I do feel like the Poland have shown some defensive fragilities in this tournament. When I've been watching their games, I've been thinking, you know, maybe Mbappe could potentially score in this game. You know, I think there's a good chance of that. I would be looking at captaining him as well if Messi fails. We'll talk about him in a second. We've got Perisic against Japan. Japan, for all of their heroics, again, they are one of the weaker defences left in the tournament, and Perisic is playing very high up on that left-hand side. Some of you guys might be thinking about going for the likes of Modric in there, maybe. It's difficult to pick Croatia attackers, I think, because there is a little bit of rotation there, but Perisic seems to be the most nailed-on player in the 3-man Croatian attack, and he's listed as a midfielder. Midfielders in this game are notoriously difficult to pick, so I think that's actually a very good pick. I like Perisic a lot. Pretty cheap there as well. He's only 7.5 million, so it's quite a nice little pick there. Excuse me while I drink my tea. Klaassen there. He is very, very cheap, is the main reason I'm going for him. There's a very good chance I actually do remove Klaassen as well. In fact, that could be my way of getting Costa up to Alisson, to be honest. But if Klaassen is starting against USA, I think I'll be very, very tempted to keep him. He's got 3 returns in 3 now. He's playing just behind the striker, so a really nice position as well that he's playing in, which is all very positive stuff. I'm not gone too heavy on Netherlands in this team because I don't fancy their chances later on in the tournament. I think they beat USA, but I think they probably lose in the quarterfinals. So for that reason, I'm not going to go too heavy on them. And at the same time, it's difficult. They have been a little bit, I think they've been defensively solid in an easy group, but certainly attacking wise, they are creating a few chances, but Depay is not quite up to full sharpness at the moment. And although Gakpo has been absolutely amazing, he seems to be scoring with every touch, and I don't know if that's going to continue or not. You would hope that it would, but at the same time, you know, is this sustainable? I think he probably scores against the USA, but after that, maybe not. We've got Saka, we spoke about him. Richarlison, 7.5 million, really, really cheap forward there. He is more than likely going to be starting against Korea, and he's probably going to be the main starting striker for the rest of the tournament for Brazil. So to be able to get the central starting striker for the favourites of the tournament with the easiest run to the final seems like a little bit of a no-brainer for me. So I think we'll be pretty happy to go for him. It seems like a really obvious choice. I would say that of the 3 forward slots, Richarlison is your, I don't know, differential slot, your flexi spot, your opportunity to be a bit creative. So Richarlison is my favourite, but there's certainly other options there. Gakpo, as I mentioned before, if he can still keep his magic going, then he's going to be a nice option. Gakpo is going to be on those set pieces as well, which is pretty nice. And we have got the likes of Olivier Giroud, who I think is a really good pick as well. He's going to be playing against Poland. It's a pretty nice fixture. If Mbappe is getting goals, maybe Giroud is getting goals as well. He's pretty nice. And Morata, don't mind Morata as well, who has been, again, scoring every game, doing very, very well. It's very obvious to a lot of people that Spain do need to start lining up with a central striker to, you know, finish all of the chances that they do create. So maybe Morata is an opportunity as well. But my personal favourite is going to be Richarlison. So that's who I'm going to go for. Then we've got Messi against Australia. Do I need to explain why we're picking Messi against Australia? Like, again, no offense to Australians. You've done amazing to get to this stage of the tournament, but Argentina are going to go into that game heavy favourites. Heavy favourites. So we're gonna back the favourites. We're gonna back the best player from the favourites in that team. Mbappe, we've spoken about it a little bit already. Costa, I don't mind. Switzerland, before match day 3, hadn't really created too much, and I think Switzerland are going to go back to a very, very defensive. Do I want to say negative? Maybe negative is a harsh word, but quite a kind of, you know, maybe try and nick a 1-0 against Portugal. And if they try and do that, it means they're probably not going to generate too many chances. I think they struggle to generate chances typically anyway. FPL Focal in the chat. What's up, my friend? How you doing, Oscar? Yeah, 6.3k. It's not bad. Sometimes I can be good at fantasy games, just not all the time. How are you getting on, Oscar? Let me know in the chat. Yeah, so we've got Costa there as well. But again, I do want to upgrade him to Alisson. Not really sure how I'm going to do that yet. I need to find 0.5 somewhere. We've got Alba, just probably the best 6 million defender, I would say, remaining in the game against Morocco. Don't write off Morocco, by the way, guys. Don't write off Morocco, because I think he is... I think Morocco is a kind of a dark horse in this tournament. But again, you got to play the favourites. Alba, we know what he can do. Plays advanced up the pitch, takes shots on, gets into the box, tries to play in passes to his teammates, playing very advanced, and often playing on the inside of the left forward as well, which is very, very nice. FPL Focal, you've not been playing. Oh, I thought you were playing, but just not making content. Crazy. But yeah, nice to see you, man. Anyway, hopefully we get to meet up soon again. Olmo next. So Olmo, he is actually, like, I'll just show you this one. I'll just show you this one because I was looking at some stats. All right, Spain World. Oh, if I can spell World Cup stats. FBRF. So yeah, we are actually seeing that Olmo is of the Spain players. I don't. What is going on here? No, I don't want to. What? Okay, I got. I hate modern websites. Can I refresh and it will go away? All right, there we go. So if we go on expected non-penalty XG plus a goal assists to goals, I can't remember what it's called on this website. But yeah, you can see. I don't know if you can see, to be fair. No, you can't quite see. If I zoom out, it's going to be really small. But can we get smaller? Smaller? All right, you might be able to read this. But Olmo, for this Spain team, is topping out the charts 1.8 non-penalty XG plus X assists, which is higher than any of his teammates, almost double any of his teammates, in fact, aside from Morata. Asensio is a decent shout as well, but I'm not 100% sure if he's going to start. Almost started 3-3, which is a positive sign that he's going to continue to start, I would say. He's clearly the favourite on that left-hand side, but again, if it doesn't work out, Asensio is an option, but I think Morata is going to be the man down the middle from probably for the rest of the tournament, I would say, just because he has made a difference when he's been playing as a striker. So, yeah, just a little bit of food for thought there. Asensio, not sure if he's going to start the next game. Of course, Ferran Torres is potentially going to be starting as well, but he's listed as a forward in the game. So, yeah, for a midfielder, you know, again, midfielders, hard to pick out. Really hard to pick out. And we've got one staring us in the face right here. Although I do rate Morocco, Olmo does seem to be the main man at Spain at the moment. So There we go. And finally, Bruno Fernandes. So Fernandes is he still the top scorer in this game? He's certainly up there. He is. Yeah. Despite not even playing, well, not even starting in that third game, he is still crazy, right? Still the highest scoring player in this entire tournament. He didn't even start the third game. So, yeah, he's doing very well. 2 goals, 2 assists so far. He's playing a lot of passes. He is making a couple of tackles as well, which maybe he's going to pick up tackle points. Switzerland is a pretty good fixture. And I feel like even if Portugal don't score a lot in that game, because I don't know if that's going to be a battering necessarily. I think that Portugal will go through, but I think that's going to be one of the more tight games of this round of 16. But still, he's going to be creating a lot, which is nice. So, yeah, Fernandes, I think, is a reasonably obvious choice, I would say. But, yeah, there is some other options, of course. But this is where we're at. This is where we're at. And I think this team is looking good. So, yeah, again, I need to find, you guys can ask me some questions, anything you want to talk about. So, yeah, get your questions in the chat. But I'm also going to ask you a question. Using this team, how would you find the money to upgrade Costa to Alisson? So, I've already got 0.5 in the bank, but I personally would like to keep 0.5 in the bank. So, I need to find 1 million somewhere, somehow. How would you do that? Would you downgrade Klaassen to De Paul, maybe? And just go for a cheap player playing earlier on in the fixture with the view that you're probably going to take him off? Would you downgrade, Alba maybe to a 5 million? Would you give up on players like, I don't know, Olmo or Saka, potentially? What would you do? Let me know. What do you do? Julian Alvarez, yeah, a few people have spoken about him. Yeah, a few people think he's going to start in this next match. It's a risky one. You can afford to take risks. As long as you have the money to transfer him to someone else if it doesn't work. The problem with him, he's 6.5 million, and it's going to be difficult to find another forward around that price point, to be honest. Downgraded defender to Sosa. I don't mind that, to be fair. I genuinely don't mind that. I do think Japan are going to score in that game, which is the only issue. Perisic to Kamada. I kind of want Perisic. Perisic is probably a lock. I do like your Sosa suggestions. I do feel like he's a really good player to have in your squad. Try and cheese a clean sheet, and if it doesn't work out, then at least he's really cheap. But at the same time, I like all of my defenders. Who are you downgrading here? Which of these defenders are you downgrading in order to get Sosa in? Because I don't want to downgrade my Brazil defenders. Alba would probably be the player I'd be most willing to sacrifice, to be honest. Alba to Guerrero. That's an interesting shout. Alba to Otamendi. You're starting to talk my language, I can't lie. Sandro is injured. Yeah, we've spoken about that. Scroll back in the stream. Alba to Otamendi. I like that one. That's probably my favourite one that you guys have suggested. Should we have a look at that? Just to see how it looks. We do that, and then you to... Where is Brazil? Okay. That would mean I'd be playing Otamendi before Perisic. So I need to remind myself when the fixtures are, but I think it's Perisic who plays last. Or is it the Brazil players? Let's have a look. Fixtures. So it goes... Last fixture is Portugal, Switzerland, then Spain, Morocco. We've got those players on the bench already. Okay, then it's Brazil. So I take off a Brazilian player. So Perisic comes back on, and we take off, I don't know, for argument's sake, Sandro, considering he might not even be available anyway. Someone random is back. My sugar daddy himself says, I don't play World Cup Fantasy, but gotta say, this World Cup was so good so far. Probably the best World Cup group stage ever. Yeah, I said it. Someone random. I totally agree with you. And I understand this is I don't know, recency bias. Kind of recency bias in a way. But certainly in my lifetime, My first World Cup that I remember watching that really got me into football as a whole was the 2002 World Cup in Korea, Japan. And, since that tournament, certainly, this has been the best group stage. Like, since I can remember, this has been, an insane group stage. Honestly, I'm loving it. I'm loving the football. I'm also loving the fantasy because I'm doing quite well. But the football has been amazing. We've been really treated. We've been really, really treated. So anyway, right, this is what my team looks like with the Otamendi switch. Now, I have lost a bit of upside with Alba. Otamendi, good chance of a clean... I would probably say that Otamendi's got a better chance of a clean sheet than Alba, to be fair. But Alba, if he gets a goal... Maybe Otamendi... Actually, should we see? Has Otamendi had any chances to score? Has he got... how's his attacking stats looking? Because I imagine he's taken a few headers. But I can't exactly remember. It's always best to double check these things. Tagliafico has been up there, but he's only started one game. Lisandro Martinez. Oh, he's created. Has he created a little bit, or has he taken a couple of shots on? I think he's created. I think Lisandro Martinez has created a little bit, hasn't he? But he hasn't got anywhere. DePaul is up there, interestingly. I'm honestly really seriously considering DePaul, by the way. Like Klaassen to DePaul. If Klaassen isn't starting, I'd probably move him to DePaul and then I move Otamendi back up to Alba, most likely. But yeah, it doesn't look like Otamendi has really had any chance to score, really. I think he's taken like a header or two. So yeah, the upside of that one is probably not super high compared to Alba, who is a much more aggressive kind of pick. But I do like that I'm involved in the Argentina defense. Is Acuna a good shout? I don't know. Difficult to call that left back slot. Difficult to call. Let's answer some more questions in the chat. Let's have a look, see what you guys are saying. John says, why do you think there were so many upsets in this World Cup? I'm not sure. I think the standard is very high. You can get upsets in any game ever, but certainly football seems to be going the way of more upsets. We've seen it in the Premier League, so many upsets. Another big thing is that the Asian sides in particular are playing really, really well, far better than anyone thought. And I think a lot of us probably went into this tournament underrating them a little bit. The problem is with a lot of Asian teams, or basically any team outside of Europe and South America, is that week to week or month to month, they only really play each other. They don't have too many opportunities to play your Englands or your Frances or your Brazils or your Argentinas. So it's very difficult to get a barometer of how they do stack up against these teams. And I think that kind of surprises a lot of people a lot of the time. I think some of the African teams have just launched games into absolute chaos. No offense, but there's sometimes the likes of Ghana, for example, if they turn a game into an AFCON game, European teams do not know how to deal with it. It just turns absolutely crazy. It just turns into madness. There is goals galore, and European teams just do not know how to deal with that. I think, I know Senegal are still in the tournament. I don't think they're the same. I think Senegal think they're a European team, which I think is why they've been playing within themselves a little bit more. But certainly, that has caused some surprises. And there's been, remember guys, there has been rotation as well. So Brazil, France, Spain to a degree, did rotate quite heavily in matchday 3. So although we're calling it an upset, and it still is an upset, if France versus Tunisia, for example, if Tunisia versus France happened in matchday 1 or matchday 2, we probably wouldn't see the same result because of that rotation from France. So that's kind of why. I would say. 12th man, Gakpo or Giroud. If you're going for 12th man, yeah, I would definitely go for a forward. I'd be probably most tempted by Giroud. What about Di Maria? Yeah, I kind of like him. I kind of like Di Maria. What chips do you have left and when are you going to use them? I've got my power captain left. And I think I saw Dan Cross in the chat saying he's going to be using his in the quarterfinal. I kind of think I agree with you, Dan. I think that's probably right now the best, one of the best places to use it. Because I think this match day, it's quite easy to pick a captain. Messi against Australia, Mbappe versus Poland. Two really obvious shouts. When we get to the quarterfinals, it's going to be a little bit more difficult to predict. And I think the best use of that power captainship is when you kind of don't trust yourself to pick a captain. And I think it's fine to not trust yourself because it is going to become difficult at a certain stage in the game. And next stage is probably that point where it's going to be difficult to call. So, yeah. Elijah says, would you go for Richarlison or Giroud? Take a look at my team, my friend, and you will find your answers. Giandre says, Dan, your thoughts? I'm going with the two goalies I think will play in the final. Alisson and Lloris. Don't want to waste transfers on goalkeepers. I kind of understand what you mean. But at the same time, I feel like Alisson is, covers you pretty much until the final. If you think they're both going to go into the final, then you only need one of them. And that one player will take you all the way through to the final, right? So, really, I would say that go for a goalkeeper who you think is going to play in the final, and a goalkeeper who you think is going to go to the, third place playoff. Then at least you'll have a goalkeeper in each game. Does that make any sense? I think that's kind of an interesting one. But yeah, that's probably the way I would, if you're trying to plan for the future, you don't want to make any goalkeeper transfers. You want one goalkeeper who's going to make the final, and the other goalkeeper who is going to make the third place playoff. Maybe. Although, semi-finals is going to be slightly different to that. But yeah. Dan Cross says, and to further that, this is related to the power captainship. To further that, later stages, semi-finals onwards are typically low scoring. And that is often true. Often true, but you never know what's going to happen. But yeah, no, I typically, I do agree with that. The only caveat to that is the third place playoff could be a bit of a madness because it's such a nothing game. It really could be a pretty wild one, to be honest. So that's the only consideration there. So there we go. Michael says, I'm thinking of using power captain in final match day. I think there'll be loads of goals in the third playoff game. Michael, you're reading my mind, my friend. You're reading my mind. New Phone Who Dis says, do you not fancy Jordi Alba versus Morocco? I do, to be fair. And there's every chance he ends up in my team by the 3 o'clock deadline, to be honest. Nick says, how much trouble are you in if Brazil are a shock exit, assuming there's another upset in these fixtures as well? I would be in a reasonably... I'd be mudded. I would be in the mud, don't get me wrong. But at the same time, if I went, 3 players from every team or 2 players from every team, you're still going to have problems because you're going to have some knocked out players no matter what you do. What I'm doing here is I'm playing the odds, and the odds of Brazil progressing this round are higher than any other team, which is why I'm confident in them. And I really just want to go all in on their defense as well. Because here's a big gripe I have with this game, actually. Brazil play with kind of 2 wingers, a forward, and a man behind the forward. All of those players in this game are listed as forwards, which means even though Brazil start with 4 forwards, you can only pick 3 of them in your lineup, which is just ridiculous. Neymar plays behind the striker. Why isn't he listed as a midfielder? Okay, I guess he would be completely overpowered if he was. But you get what I mean? It's so hard to get Brazil attackers because they play with forwards. All of their advanced players are listed as forwards. All of their midfielders are deep-lying midfielders. So, how do you get in on the Brazil attack? Richarlison. Richarlison, that's it. On Neymar, by the way, there's various different rumours going around. He's not back in training yet, but I think apparently that's because he's ill rather than injured. So, God knows. I'm not touching Neymar this round. We'll think about him further on in the tournament. Let's see if he makes the bench at least, and then we can go from there. But yeah, Neymar is just the risky at the moment. I don't know what's going on with him, but everything is leaning towards him being back at some point in the tournament, but we don't know when. we don't know when. Anthony is a midfielder, but he doesn't start. Exactly, Matt. That's our problem. Any differential punt from the England squad? All right, let's have a wee little looky-loo. I like Harry Maguire. You never know if he gets a little header. Marcus Rashford, if he starts, he's a differential. But that's if he starts. It's a big if. A lot of people say he is going to start. Am I willing to sacrifice one of my 3 forward slots for a player who I'm not 100% sure is going to start? No. No, I am not. But you could always start with Rashford, and then if he doesn't start the game, you could switch him to Richarlison. They're the same price, so maybe that works out. You know, you're going to get the team news. You're going to have 4 transfers to use during the round of 16. So there's an option. Aside from that, yeah, pretty much just Rashford and Maguire, I would say, are the 2 big differentials, I suppose. De Jong instead of Klaassen. De Jong is much more expensive. And, like, I know he scored last game, but De Jong doesn't typically score for, well, for anyone. Let's just show you this because I do want to back this up because I know a lot of people have been speaking about De Jong after his heroics in the last game, but I almost put him in my my video yesterday, but because I did want to speak about him, but I didn't in the end because I didn't think it was that interesting. But yeah, if you look here, De Jong 1 goal in his last 3 years or 2 years. 3 years. He's scored once in the last 3 years. Oh wait, no. Technically, yes, yeah, he scored 1 goal for the Netherlands in 3 years, playing pretty much every single game during that time. So I wouldn't be banking on too many returns from him, particularly at his price. He's another, another Valverde who we spoke about before the tournament started. Very, very good player, not really suited to fantasy games, particularly at their prices. Really. Thoughts on Perisic? Like him. Saka or Enzo Fernandez? That's Saka for me. Will we be able to transfer mid-game week? Yes, you'll get 4 as per the rules here. During round of 16, you get 4 transfers. So there you go. That answers that. I want Martinelli in my team, but he's a forward in this game. Sophie, Martinelli is probably not going to start, I'm afraid. Which Argentinian midfielder should I choose? Di Maria, if you've got the budget, or De Paul if you have not got the budget, I would say. Is Saka starting over Foden? I'm not going to claim to know anything for sure. I would predict that Saka is more likely to start than Foden, but I have very consciously left 0.5 million in the bank so I can make that switch if I need to. Are you totally sure about Sandro over Militao? I mean, Sandro is, if he starts, I want him. If he doesn't start, I'll transfer him to Telles. Foden, Saka, Rashford, all in my 11. Fair enough. All in on England. A lot of love for England. Enzo Fernandez or De Paul. I mean, there's a big price difference, which is my issue there. Actually, the price difference is not as big as I thought it was. I thought Fernandez was 6.5, but he's only 6. Hey, Enzo Fernandez is not a bad pick. I do still prefer De Paul. If we look at these stats, we can see that De Paul is statistically, more likely, or certainly has higher XG than Enzo so far in this tournament. And I like that De Paul is making a lot of passes and tackles, which adds to those points as well. So maybe the fact that Enzo hasn't started, he started 1 game, right? Enzo Fernandez. So maybe that plays in a little bit. Do we think he's going to start the next game? Quite possibly. But De Paul is pretty nailed on, right? And he's putting up reasonably good stats. Let's have a look at per 90. Okay, so per 90, Enzo Fernandez just about overtakes De Paul. But more expensive, less nailed. Is it worth it for that slightly better stats per 90? That's kind of up to you. Asensio or Olmo? Easy, Olmo. Eye test says Enzo, stats say De Paul. Yeah. Are you playing vibes? Maybe Enzo's the vibes pick. Pulisic over Perisic. Comments? Yeah, if you want to. I don't think USA are going to go through to the next round. I don't think USA are even going to score in that game, to be honest. If they do, it's going to be like 1 goal. Whereas I think Perisic's game for Croatia against Japan, Croatia are the slight favourites in that game. And I can see there being more goals in that game as well. How about Foden as a pick? Yeah, I like him. Enzo's an exciting pick. Yeah, fine. Yeah, like if you want the excitement. DePaul's been awful so far. Do you actually, like, I've seen a few people say that. Do you actually think DePaul has been awful? Or are people just upset that he hasn't got any fantasy points? Because I don't think he's played badly. Like, I know that's a separate point, but, you know, he's putting up some good numbers. I think he's playing well, and he's only 5 million. So I think there's a lot of, and he always plays early in the match day. So if it doesn't work out, you can transfer him out. Well, you can sub him out for one of your bench players. If DePaul was playing in the last fixture, I wouldn't want him, because do you really want to, you know, substitute out one of your players and bring in DePaul? Probably not. But he's one of those players that if it works out, great. If it doesn't, he's cheap and he plays early, so you can sub him out. So I think there's those kind of advantages to DePaul. And yeah, I think this is kind of the intricacies of these fantasy games. Like, it's not just straight up, who do you think is going to score most points? Which it usually is in fantasy games. You just go into a match day and you say, who's going to score the most points? I want those players. It's a little bit more intricate than that. And that's why we can start considering players like this. That's my opinion on it anyway. Will transfers carry forward? No, they will not. You can do Otamendi to Acuna. I want to keep 0.5. Actually, Acuna's 5.5, right? Or is he not? Have I got that wrong? Is he only 5? Oh, he's 4.5. Yeah, but do we think he's going to start? I don't know. He started 2. Tagliafico started the other. Has he even, has he even got that many minutes? 168 minutes. He strikes me as a player who does get... He does look good, by the way. I don't know. Maybe. Like, I don't mind it. I'm not confident enough that he's going to start. I think Tagliafico has done well whenever he's been on the pitch. So that kind of does worry me a little bit. There we go. Giandre says, I'm so confused. One side of the draw is easier to predict than the other. Yeah, which is why I'm going for a lot of Brazil players. Yeah, when we get to the quarterfinals, it's going to get very messy. Very, very messy. There's going to be some teams knocked out. There just is. Hopefully it's going to be France knocked out because England have beaten them. But there we go. Anyway, guys, I'm going to call it there because I do need to get a move on. I need to leave the house, going to the great town of Milton Keynes. A heroic place. Yeah, so guys, hopefully I'll be able to answer a few questions in the comments if you've got any more. When this stream goes up as a video on demand, do leave a comment. I'm sure a few of you guys are watching this as a stream replay anyway, so shout out to you guys. Make sure you leave a comment if you've got any questions. I'll try and answer a few of them. Do like the stream before you disappear. I would really appreciate that. It really does help out so much. Subscribe if you haven't done already. But aside from that, guys, good luck. Good luck, and I'll hopefully see a lot of you guys over on Twitter as well, at FPL Mate. We might go on Instagram a little bit today as well, at FPL Mate on Instagram, if you fancy a little follow there as well. But we're going to leave it there. Appreciate you guys watching, sticking with me, sticking with World Cup Fantasy. The World Cup has been amazing. The fantasy game's been all right, but we're almost there. So there we go, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Once again, have a good day. Enjoy the football, and I'll see you later, mates. Bye-bye.